am bulk filming today. I filmed 3 videos today. I had 2 more to go. So I was like, I'm gonna take a break, dump all the footage from my memory card into my computer, and take my lunch break. So as I am microwaving my wonton soup, I check my messages on Twitter, and I have a message from somebody who's like, this Cait Corrain article. And I'm like, the what? So I don't like to do part 2 videos when it comes to authors behaving badly. And I sat on this for the last half an hour, deciding whether or not to film this in lieu of filming another video, because I've only got an hour and 45 minutes until I have to go get my kids, and I've decided to film it. So this is technically a part 2 to Authors Behaving Badly, Cait Corrain, because Cait decided to speak to a journalist, a very particular journalist. No hate to the journalist. This is not on the journalist at all. I want to be clear. This is probably one of the most underhanded, to me, things that I have seen in a while, which shouldn't surprise me considering what happened with Cait Corrain originally. So 2 months ago, and I did cover this in what happened originally with Authors Behaving Badly, Cait Corrain. Cait Corrain for a long time was obsessed with reviews and decided to make a web of Goodreads reviews that were downvoting her peers' books and upvoting her own book. And Cait, when this came out, originally tried to put it off on somebody else who was a fake person named Lily, and Lily said, when this comes out, they're gonna call you a racist. Now, Cait has come back 2 months after this, after making an apology that, in my opinion, fell flat, as well as several of the affected authors who they review bombed also fell very flat, because it didn't really take full accountability, and it seemed to sort of put off what happened onto substance abuse. So I'm going to read this article. I saw it, I copy pasted it, and screen recorded it so that you can see it. I don't recommend you go click on it. Don't give it any more clicks. You don't need to do that. I'm gonna read it to you, and I want to point out here that Berkeley Howard is the exact same journalist, and the Daily Beast is the publication. These are the same journalist and publication that previously put out an article about this, which interviewed the affected authors. Now, I will link that article down below. I am not going to link this article down below, because the voice that needs to be centered here is the authors. And again, I'm gonna run through the affected authors who Cait review bombed. The affected debut books were So Let Them Burn by Kamilah Cole, The Poisons We Drank by Bethany Baptiste, To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by X Chang, Voyage of the Damned by Frances White, Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright, Road to Ruin by Hana Lee, and The Empire Wars by Akure Phenix. Unfortunately, debuts were not the only books targeted by Cait Corrain. She also targeted many others, including Thea Guanzon, who wrote The Hurricane Wars, who was a fellow Raylo. Cait was a Raylo fanfic writer. They also targeted R.M. Virtues, who wrote a Greek myth retelling called Drag Me Up. They are a self-published author. Why Cait would do such a thing, I mean, there's really no other way to look at it. It's just shitty. She also one-starred books by Katrina Kwan, Danielle L Jensen, Carrie Maniscalco, also Katie Roberts' erotic Greek retelling, Neon Gods, and more. All of their books are linked below. Some of them are now out. I did get a copy of So Let Them Burn. I'm very excited about that. I've also pre-ordered The Empire Wars by Akure Phenix. I'm very excited for that to come out. It comes out my birthday month. Go me. Another win for the Cancer girlies. So I want to, again, just specify, if you're going to look into this, I deeply encourage you to look into those affected. This article only solidifies what I already believed to be true about Cait, judging by what they did and how they apologized afterwards, what went on with their fake conversations between them and Lily. Everything is very carefully worded, and it seems to me very calculated and methodical to them, but it's not methodical enough because everybody can see right through it. And I want you to keep the question in mind, why was this article written and who was it written for? Because that'll really tell you a lot about the intention here.
Hi, so I want to be clear that the approach that I took with this video was trying to take all of the context of what I knew about Cait Corrain's situation and what they did, and looking at that side by side with what they were saying about what they did. I do believe that they did experience all of these things with their mental health and substance abuse. I believe them. I just don't think that their actions were, as they are claiming, entirely informed by those things. At looking at what occurred, what they did, all of the context of what they did, and looking at this article, several things are left out of this article that cannot be informed by substance abuse. So I think that two things were true at once, and that it is very difficult to admit that, and they simply do not want to. So they are trying to say that only one thing is true. They have a substance abuse problem. That is true. I hope they are continuing to get help for it. But it is also true that what they did was racist, and I believe informed by that racism. And I think that this article is an attempt to cover their tracks. However, again, when you look at all of the context of what occurred and what they are saying they did in the article, there is several pieces, very critical pieces of what occurred that are intentionally, I believe, left out. So all this to say, two things are true at once. They did struggle with substance abuse. They do have mental health issues that they needed to address. And hopefully they are continuing to address both of these things, the substance abuse, the mental health. And I hope they get all the help that they need. But I do think also that they were being racist. It was intentional, and they are not in a place where they want to admit that that is the truth.
So this was put up February 13th, which was last night at 9:17 p.m. Eastern Time. Content warning: this story deals with severe mental illness and substance abuse. A white author who came under fire in the publishing industry for review bombing writers of color has finally spoken out about the allegations and vows that she is not racist. In an exclusive interview with the Daily Beast, Cait Corrain said that a psychotic breakdown prompted by substance abuse led to a series of uncharacteristic actions that were beyond her control, including writing scathing Goodreads reviews of four books that were rated higher than hers. It was a sheer awful coincidence that the majority of the books were written by writers of color. I want to just be extraordinarily clear that race had absolutely nothing to do with the authors that I chose to go after, Corrain said. The fact that there were a large number of people of color amongst the authors that I targeted is an unfortunate coincidence that happened because I was going off of Goodreads lists. That was the only driver, and I am so distressed and heartbroken by the fact that the impression that people have of me now is that I am a racist. I think that that is truly the sole reason why this was written. She does not like the idea, the image that comes to mind of Cait Corrain that is now in the public eye is Cait Corrain racist. I think that that is the sole reason why this was written. It was not written to make amends. It was not written to help anybody. It was just, I don't like that I am perceived as racist, and I would like to not be perceived as racist anymore, so I'm going to try to reach out to the same publication that talked about me before to try to make it so that the first thing that comes up when I am Googled is, I am not racist. And in a way, I feel like that's sort of speaking over the people who were affected by what they did. So, as previously reported by the Daily Beast, Corrain 33 started trending within sci-fi and fantasy communities on social media in December after TikToker Shiran J. Zhao, the author of Iron Widow, posted about a trend of negative reviews bombarding authors of color on the book website Goodreads. After attempts to place the blame elsewhere, Corrain eventually came clean and apologized for her nasty reviews. And it quotes her apology that went up on Twitter: "A sincere apology. I know this is long, but that's because I'm trying to own and openly address every aspect of what I did." Corrain both wrote on Instagram and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, on December 12th. I refuse to abide, Elon. I refuse to call it that. Corrain explained that she had been battling serious depression and substance abuse without fully going into detail. However, she did post that a change in medication drove her to a complete psychological breakdown, and the negative reviews were a result. Nonetheless, writers and fans of the indie sci-fi and fantasy literary community did not buy her reasoning. Authors of color were especially impacted by the reviews, with some saying they had to create new Goodreads accounts because their book rankings had been demolished. That, in particular, is about Akure Phenix's book, The Empire Wars. I think this combination of racism, jealousy, and insecurity is also why she rated Drag Me Up by R.M. Virtue's 1 star. She didn't want an indie author to have a good review from her fake accounts because she wanted her traditionally published Greek retelling to do better. She couldn't even leave indie authors alone.
In the case of debut author Akure Phenix, who wrote The Empire Wars, that Cait decided to trash on Goodreads on one of her burner accounts, which led Akure Phenix to delete the book from Goodreads and have to basically start all over. Akane says about this, Cait Corrain was also maliciously competitive with other non-binary authors. She needed to be first and therefore attacked POC authors for our Greek mythology inclusions. She subtweeted me 24 hours after harassing my book. My book is not even Greek mythology. It just contained Greek Roman names and references, that's all. Literally, I deleted my book materials, concepts, tweets from that time because I was worried it was Twitter genocide deniers. I wanted to be safe and let it pass. The Empire Wars is now back on Goodreads. If it interests you and you want to help, please feel free to add. So I have added the Goodreads link to Akane's book down below. And what I want to point out is how important it is that Akane points out that Cait wanted to be the first. Cait does not admit to her racism later in her apology, which I'll talk about. And Cait also says in the group chat with other debut authors that she was not just jealous of POC authors. She was jealous in general, but I don't think that this is true, and I think Akane's experience is proof of that. And the tweet Akane pointed out that happened within 24 hours of Cait coming after Akane's book on Goodreads is a tweet from Cait saying, "To my knowledge, I'm the first NB author to retell this myth with an explicitly NB Dionysus," so a non-binary Dionysus, as transphobes exist. So they're making an argument basically that it's important to them to tell this very queer retelling of the myth of Dionysus and Ariadne, but the way that they made this tweet is obviously directly related to what they did to Akane, because like Akane says, Cait wanted to be the first.
They said the negative reviews set them back in a corner of an industry that was already slow and not the most receptive to fantasy stories about people of color and Black people specifically. Following the incident, Corrain's agent, publisher, and book distributor all dropped her as a client. She told the Daily Beast that her publisher didn't contact her before making a public statement and learned that she had been fired after reading a news headline. An assumption that I have about Cait is that they are constantly watching everything that is said about them. And this was first done in their Goodreads reviews. They, as I said in my last video, were pretty obsessed with constantly watching what was happening on their Goodreads. So I think it's safe to say that they've been consistently watching everything that's been happening on Twitter and consistently reading articles about themselves, which tells me that they are very, very keen on watching how they're publicly being received. And I think that that's the driving force, again, behind this article in particular. I understand how difficult the publishing industry is to navigate when you are marginalized, Corrain told the Daily Beast, adding that she is a Jewish neurodivergent person. She seemingly understood and empathized with how much of a professional setback the negative reviews would cost Black authors, especially for people of color. There is another really serious layer on top of that I don't have to deal with, she said. And so the fact that my actions impacted other marginalized people, and specifically a lot of people of color, in such an awful way just breaks my heart, and I would rather live and admit to a very frightening truth than allow myself to be defined by such an awful, harmful misconception. This is very telling for me. Who's the misconception harmful to other than yourself? I feel like the way that was framed was very, very disingenuous. And they continue, and by harmful, I don't just mean harmful to me, I mean harmful in retrospect to my friends of color who are now left thinking that this whole time I was harboring this deep, dark hatred for them. The harm is not that they feel like you were harboring this deep, dark hatred for them. The harm is that you negatively reviewed their books out of jealousy and likely racism too. Now, it's basically everybody's word against Cait's at this point as to whether or not this was racist. To me, it's pretty clear that this was racially motivated. Cait is going to hold that it is not. There's really no way to prove it other than to look at all the evidence and sort of come to the logical conclusion.
I missed saying this here, but part of the evidence that this is indicative of a pattern of racist thoughts and behavior from Cait is the very names that they chose to put on these fake Goodreads accounts that they made, such as the name Osei Young and the name Scheherazade Moen. So I don't think that can be explained away. I think that was racist, and I think that because it is racist, that's why it gets left out of this article that is called "I'm Not Racist," because there's really no good way to explain why they picked the names Osei Young and Scheherazade Moen. They couldn't think of a good story, so they seemingly left that out of this article entirely.
But setting that aside, that's not the harm. And you know what the harm was. You were told what the harm was repeatedly. And instead of focusing, this is sort of diabolical to frame it as, it's not just harmful to me to be called a racist, it's also harmful to the people I harmed to think that I'm a racist. I can't get past that. That was the first major red flag for me in this article. Corrain explains that she comes from a family that battled serious mental illness and where addiction runs rampant. Same. So I can empathize. I have an alcoholic for a father. There is serious mental illness in my family, including in myself. So I can empathize. She was diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD when she was a child, but didn't realize that she had autism until January 2022. I have dyslexia. I didn't realize it until I was an adult. I am going to be screened for ADHD and autism. My son is autistic. I empathize. I get it. Neurodivergence in an ableist world is hard. Understood. I had spent my entire adult life struggling with the challenge of being autistic in a world that seems designed to punish autistic people for existing, and because I am what people would consider pretty high functioning, it meant that a lot of these struggles seemed really unreasonable to other people in my life. Listen, again, I empathize. Again, my son, 7 years old, is autistic. His teacher did not believe he was autistic. The school counselor did not believe he was autistic, and this caused a lot of issues in that I was trying to get him classroom rules outside of an IEP, which I've now had to go the route of IEP because they refused to believe me that he was autistic and that he needed certain like intercessory things. He needs breaks, he needs headphones, he needs things to be explained to him in multiple ways, multiple times. He needs a lot of grace when it comes to interacting with his peers because he takes things very literally that they say. I get it. Like I empathize. That is hard. I know. In June 2022, Corrain said that she began experiencing major mental health issues while working on her novel Crown of Starlight. As a neurodivergent person, she said the publisher's editing notes put her in a state of panic, along with increasing feelings of self-doubt due to all the visual noise. Again, I am very sympathetic. I know that the publishing world is hard. It is very hard on authors. Even when you are trad pub, publishers in general are very unfair to most people unless you are literally Sarah J. Maas or Stephen King. Unless you are a huge name, you're probably being treated crappy. And the thing is that the people who could sympathize the most with that were the peers that she later targeted. Some of it was also caused by increasing social isolation, and I started trying to self-medicate during that time with alcohol and marijuana. Then I had a seriously bad reaction to mixing those things with the really high doses of psychoactive medication that I was on. On top of self-medicating and her daily dose of ADHD medication and mood stabilizers, Corrain began doing IV ketamine treatments for depression. That is a hallucinogenic that really started destabilizing my sense of reality, Corrain explained. As the last year and a half progressed, I was using higher and higher doses of it, even though I was aware that it wasn't helping. All it was doing was giving me like an hour of disconnection from how bad I felt. Corrain said she purposely told her doctor that she needed higher doses of medication to help with her depression, even though she knew she wasn't progressing. Throughout the year, she misread social cues more and her suicide ideations worsened. Corrain's concerns about being inferior to peers who did not have accessibility issues deepened. So it's not connecting for me. I'm genuinely trying to look at this with some empathy, but it's just not connecting for me. I don't know why you feeling inferior was your peer's problem, because those same people are people who have similar struggles to Cait. Some of these authors who they targeted with their negative reviews also have ADHD, also are people with autism, are also people struggling with substance abuse. You didn't just target your peers in the writing community, you targeted the peers that have similar struggles to you and could have empathized with you, and that's like their struggle with the same thing is erased in this situation, because the only struggle with ADHD and autism that is being put forward is Cait's. Again, we're just centering Cait where Cait does not need to be centered.
I brought up RM Virtues in this video, and in the previous video I did on Cait Corrain. RM Virtues' book was targeted by Cait Corrain. They are an indie author. They didn't have a debut coming out at the same time as Cait's. There was literally no other reason to target RM Virtues other than Cait's jealousy plus racism, in my opinion. And I think that this thread that they put up on Twitter is so raw, and it's painful to read. I don't want to have the whole thing on here in case they later want to delete it. I don't want to have it archived forever. But this thread shows me that Cait was so ready to center their own mental illness, their own experiences, and say that they were not racist, and once again spoke over the people who are dealing with the same struggles that Cait had. The people that have the same struggles that Cait have are the people that Cait targeted. So that's why reading this thread by RM Virtues, what Cait said in this article, it continues to just ring hollow for me.
I developed this deep insecurity that my editors and my agent were looking down on me, that they thought I was being difficult and that I was a failure because I couldn't do what abled authors could apparently do with no problem, Corrain told the Daily Beast. Again, the people who would have empathized the most with that are fellow authors who have these same neurodivergencies and are struggling with ableism in the writing community. And you must know that they exist. You are one of them. I became increasingly paranoid that I was being set up to fail. By that point, I was starting to experience what's called a medically induced psychotic break, and psychosis is when you are completely disconnected from reality. And so the logic of all of this is, if it doesn't make sense to you, it's because it doesn't make sense, period, to anybody who is not in it. I understand that psychotic breaks are very difficult to explain if you have not had one. I just feel a little bit manipulated by the way that this is worded. I was in such a horrible mental state and I just wanted to die, but nobody could understand why I was feeling like this. Listen, that's valid. It's very valid to to feel like you are alone in it. If, you know, the publisher and your agent, I assume they're referring to their agent. I just feel like who else would have better understood this than your fellow authors? And you were in author slacks. Like, I know that they talked to, they were friends with Meredith Mooring, who is someone with albinism and with blindness. Like, I think that Meredith Mooring would understand and be able to empathize with the ableism that Cait Corrain felt they were was facing. It just sort of feels like everybody was against me and everybody's ableist, and I'm like, I just feel very manipulated by the wording of this, and I'm not even able to articulate exactly what's going on here that I feel like is amiss. I feel like this is a red herring. Do you know what I mean? In June 2023, Corrain tried a new ADHD medication and said that was when she created her first Goodreads account and wrote negative reviews against her will. So I think that the way that this is punctuated is the author relaying what they think that Cait was saying, because Cait doesn't use the term against her will. So that's sort of like extrapolating what Cait is trying to say, but I have a lot of feelings on the term against her will. I woke up the next morning and I had this awful like dread in my stomach, and I couldn't tell anyone because I was absolutely convinced that if I told anyone what had happened and the fact that I had done something that was so incredibly out of character for me, that I was going to be institutionalized. Listen, I've been institutionalized. I was 16. It's terrifying. I get it. It's humiliating. They make you strip down. I was a minor, and they make you, like, you never forget it. Like, it's very traumatizing. And another one of my friends was also forcibly institutionalized, and is still, like, you think you're okay for a long time, and then something happens, and you're right back there. It's very triggering. So I understand the fear of being institutionalized. I do. I can empathize there. However, the next sentence doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But she couldn't go back and delete the Goodreads profiles because that meant that she would have to confront the truth about not having autonomy over her actions. I just don't understand that. What do you mean? I mean, deleting it once you realize what an awful thing you've done is when you do have autonomy, would have been the best move. And then you knew about it, and then months later during an episode you did it again. I just don't, something about that just rings dishonest for me. In November, Corrain said she switched medications again. At that point, she was prescribed a medical cocktail of Zoloft, Buspar, Vyvanse, Lamictal, ketamine, and trazodone, all of high doses. Independently, she was consuming cannabis, alcohol, and caffeine. Corrain reiterated that her psychiatrist was not being negligent, but that she was lying about what she actually needed so that she could medicate everything away that was happening. She wanted a solution that would make that internal mental pain disappear. I just wanted to die, but nobody could understand why I was feeling like this, and they kept telling me how good things were. I think on a subconscious level, I just wanted to burn my entire life down so that when I died, people would understand why. And on an even deeper level, I think that I was trying very hard to leave myself no way out, to make it so that I had absolutely nothing left, so now I had to die. I can understand that. I just can't understand, I can't understand the particular Goodreads reviews that were left in the context of that. I mean, saying about Molly X Chang's book, I can't believe Del Rey spent $500,000 on this when they could have, $500,000? Yeah, $500,000 on this when they could have spent $500,000 on literally anything else. That was informed by jealousy, and that is missing from here. At the beginning of December, Corrain was experiencing such intense inner turmoil and paranoid delusions about failure that she targeted Goodreads sci-fi and fantasy writers whose books were ranked higher than hers in popularity. They were people that I was perceiving as competition in this really altered state, she explained, though she pushed that mental illness is not an excuse for her actions. This was not a story about me going on a racist rampage. This was a story about a really insane attempt to make it look like none of my competitors were nearly as popular as I was. So going back to like all that context that I found on Cait's Twitter about their obsession with Goodreads, this sort of rings untrue for me as well. I think that this really initially started in their fan fiction days, where they were really accustomed to getting a certain kind of feedback up front, and moving to traditional publishing is hard because you're not being told your feedback. You have to go find it. Your editor is your feedback, right? I think that they were kind of on this like one-track mind when it came to feedback and needing to be the only one who got certain kind of praise. I really think that the way that they talked about Goodreads reviews for a long time before all of this was happening tells me that this is not wholly the case. They were really obsessed with Goodreads ratings and reviews in a way that really informs their actions. Unfortunately, she also experienced blackouts during her manic episodes and didn't have a clear memory about what she had done. She wanted to destroy her life so much that she wouldn't have a reason to not commit suicide. She said, "It wasn't until too late that I realized that I didn't actually want to die." So I want to back up a bit. I understand that I understand wanting to destroy your life because you feel like you don't want to leave yourself anything to live for anyway. Burn it all down. I completely understand. I can empathize. I get it. The thing that I'm not understanding is if you're experiencing blackouts during manic episodes, and this is a genuine question, I'm not understanding how you were able to keep up with a web of Goodreads reviews. Those are different emails for each one. Let's like charitably assume that they all have the same password. They all have different emails. So are you writing down these individual accounts that you're making up? Because you're logging back into some of them. So that means that you have to remember, right? You're going to have multiple email accounts to keep up with. I have genuine questions about how you were able to maintain that web of Goodreads reviews if this was happening during blackouts. And it just so happened that writers of color were largely the victims of what she called a perfect storm of intense self-doubt and improper prescription dosages. I think that the authors that I actually targeted are allowed to be as angry with me as they want to be. The way that is worded is, I feel so intentional. The authors that I actually targeted, I think that everybody has the right to be shocked and appalled at this. The authors that I actually targeted, you could have just said, I think my victims, because you did create victims of a campaign of resentment and jealousy. Like, you could have just said that, but instead the way it's worded I feel is so calculated. Unless I'm misunderstanding and that piece was not written by her, that, I mean, it's in quotes, but then there's like that pair, I don't know anything about journalism, so maybe the journalist put that in there, but if Cait wrote that, then that is intentionally worded to basically be like, well, everybody else can fuck off, but yeah, the people that I targeted can be mad. Okay, I think that I hurt them in a way that if somebody had hurt me like that I don't know what I would do with that level of anger. I do not want to invalidate their pain, their anger, their feelings, because I think that would be completely inappropriate for me to do. It would be, but you did do that, is the thing. You did invalidate, because you gave them somebody else to be angry at initially. You did try to invalidate it, and when you were told you're lying, you told them, believe what you want. You were still actively trying to avoid you being the person who was doing this. Corrain decided to come clean when she realized how much control she was losing with herself. I don't think that that's true either. I think that when Corrain saw that nobody was believing the story that it was Lily, that's when they decided to come clean, because they tried to find a way out. They even convinced their agent and their friend Meredith Mooring that Lily had done it. She posted public apologies online, and then she stepped away from social media because she was afraid of what she could have done to herself if she read negative comments about what had happened. Yes, but then she admitted earlier that she was also looking at articles of herself, and that's how she found out that she got dropped by the publisher. So I wouldn't say that it's true that she stepped away from social media entirely, because I mean, unless she was just Googling and not on social media, I don't know. Again, that just rings dishonest for me. Like, you're stepping away from social media, but you're not stepping away from Googling yourself. I don't buy it. It is important to me that there are no lies and secrets, and that I'm not trying to hide the truth, because all that did was a lot of harm to myself and others. I think that in losing everything, I realized how much I've actually had. Corrain says she deserved for her agent, publisher, and distributor to let her go. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that she said that. There's really no way to like word gymnastics your way to saying, well, maybe I still deserved that. After the indie literary world hit the fan, Corrain checked into an inpatient psychiatric facility to regain a sense of control. She said it was the same day that actor Matthew Perry's autopsy report was released. What I started to realize is the way that we talk about addiction in our society. A dead addict is a tragedy. A living addict is weak and a problem, and somebody who just can't get themselves together, and I think that's a huge, huge disservice to the millions of people who are struggling with this stuff, because it's an epidemic at this point. I want to try to change the conversation around mental illness, around addiction, and around what it actually is like to be in the publishing industry as a first-time author, as a disabled author. This is another huge red flag for me. The people that Matthew Perry was most understood and loved by are the same people who you likely harmed, and also are the same same people who were pre-ordering your books. A lot of us understood that Matthew Perry had a long-term substance abuse problem, and most of us were very understanding and heartbroken for him about that, and hoping that this substance abuse problem would not end his life. So the people that you harmed were the people who were sympathetic and empathetic towards Matthew Perry about that. The people that you harmed were also first-time authors, disabled authors. These are the same people you harmed. You didn't harm the people who harmed you. You harmed other people just like you. Corrain has since changed medications, takes the doses she's been prescribed, goes to therapy, and completely eliminated cannabis and alcohol from her consumption routine. But she can't undo the damage that has been done. She said she understands that she has a privilege over writers of color who have been set back after being review bombed. Again, I just want to point out that she knew that what she was doing had a racist undertone, because as Lily, she admitted that to herself. Corrain said that white people within the publishing industry need to do more to uplift voices of color and be cognizant of struggles they endure. Okay, then this article should have been about that, because let's say Cait's not lying and that they were not intentionally doing this from a place of racism. Let's say that it was entirely informed by jealousy and them being neurodivergent and dealing with substance abuse, which personally I don't think so. I don't even know what to say. Like, I just feel like she left no room for anybody to say anything. And I don't agree. Let's say that it's true though. Let's say that it was not racism. Then your intention and your impact could have been to mitigate that harm that you caused by listing all of those authors, by saying, I'm going to pre-order their books, I'm going to pass out pre-orders, or ask what you can do. Instead of the intention being, let me mitigate the harm that I caused, the intention here is, please believe me that I'm not racist, and here's all the reasons why this was actually not done out of racism. She wants to apologize to all of the authors who have been affected by her negative reviews, but at this point, she's been blocked and doesn't know how to reach them. That's not true. That is a lie. And the thing is that it's not like an accidental lie. That's a very specific lie. You either know that you're blocked or you don't. It doesn't say she guesses she's been blocked. It says she is. So she intentionally said that in there to say, well, I'm blocked, what can I do? First of all, even if that's true, you can reach out to agents and say, hi, I'd like to apologize. Please relay this email. Let them know that there is absolutely no pressure to respond whatsoever. Second of all, she's not blocked. Bethany Baptiste didn't block her. Enright didn't block her. She's not blocked by everybody. They did not all block her. Who was that written for? Because it's not written for the people who she did this to who didn't block her. So who's it for? It's for the person reading this that she's hoping to convince. The same people that she was hoping would read those fake Goodreads reviews and make purchasing decisions based on them. That's what I believe. I think that this is very calculated in its wording. Doesn't know how to reach them. You can put out a public statement. You can put out a public statement right here. You have the opportunity. This is how you reach them. Instead, you've reached them to tell them, I'm actually not racist, by the way. You had your opportunity. I do want to make sure that I apologize directly to the people I've hurt. It felt unacceptable to me to just leave people hanging without acknowledgement that I knew what I had done and that they deserve to have their pain acknowledged and that I had to own that. I don't feel that this is enough. I can't accept an apology that's not mine. I know that a lot of the authors who were targeted by her don't feel like they accept this, and I can't blame them because very specific things were done to certain people. So first of all, saying about Molly X Chang's book, I can't believe Del Rey spent $500,000 on this when they could have spent that money on literally anything else. That was a targeted personal attack, and you owe Molly a specific apology for that. You owe not only Molly a specific apology, you owe Akure Phenix a specific apology. They targeted their book, and then 24 hours later were sort of subtweeting / mocking the fact that they had done this. So if they deserve to have their pain acknowledged, they deserve to have their pain acknowledged on an individual level. And you still have not done that. And in fact, you're lying about the fact that you could contact them. And not just the places you are blocked, but you could find another way to contact them and ask your message to be relayed. Now, whether or not that's accepted, that's up to them. But it's still Cait's responsibility to say their piece, say their apology individually about what they did. My friend Neeks had a really good video on how to apologize. And I don't remember the exact the exact wording that Neeks used, but the acronym was SATAN. So you say what you did, you acknowledge the harm, I don't remember T, and then the N is never ever do that again. Say what you did, acknowledge the harm that it caused, never do it again. That's what you're supposed to that's what you're supposed to do when you apologize. A blanket apology, well, I did a bunch of bad things to a lot of you. Sorry is not the play. Like, it's not the way to fix this. It's especially not the way to fix this if this comes tacked onto the very end of a long ass article that is more spent saying why you did the thing instead of saying here's who I specifically harmed, here's how I specifically harmed them, because a lot of detail is left out of this about how specifically bad and mean this was. And instead they were just like, I'm blocked, I'm sorry, bye. What?
It is worth mentioning that several of the affected authors did talk about how there is another Goodreads account that did 1-star bomb several of the books that were originally 1-star bombed by Cait Corrain. I did take a look at this Goodreads profile, and it seems that this person created this account on February 4th and was 1-star bombing assumedly every children's book in existence. I mean, a ton of these are basically just the Babysitter's Club books. I don't really understand what's going on here. And I was made aware that 48 hours rather later is when Cait Corrain or Cait Corrain's team contacted the journalist. So I'm not really sure if these are connected. There's no way to definitively prove that at this time with all of the available evidence. The timing is incredibly coincidental and very odd. I don't really understand, again, this Goodreads profile. It's literally just 1-starring seemingly every book that has ever been printed. And it's been doing this since February 4th up to today, February 15th. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know if this is Cait Corrain. It is an awfully weird amount of coincidences, but all I can say for now is that it's an awfully weird certain amount of coincidences.
I'm sorry. I tried to be empathetic. I tried to understand. I just don't buy this. I think that this is very specific in its wording. I think this is very mean. I think that this is centering of themselves again when they didn't once mention who they hurt, and I know they know who they hurt. Everybody knows. And they also completely left out the Lily thing. They tried to put it on a person who doesn't exist, and then in a way tried to put it off on the entire Raylo community. A lot of extremely important detail was left out of this. And on top of that, the lie about contacting authors. So again, this begs the question for me to ask, if it's not for those authors who they're lying about, who was this written for? Again, my belief is that this was written for the exact same person that they wrote those fake Goodreads reviews, because Cait's main intention here is the perception to other people about Cait Corrain. Cait Corrain is hoping to salvage their image in the minds of other people. Very, very specifically trying to control the narrative about themselves now that they cannot control the narrative around their book versus other people's books. That's what it looks like to me. That's my opinion on this article. Please, again, go support the authors who were affected by their review bombing. I have them all linked down below. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments and questions. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Hello. This is probably the quickest I've ever gotten a video up, and that certainly is because it's a lot easier to do reaction content than it is to script videos and film them afterwards. My God. So anyway, with that out of the way, I have to say thank you for being a friend to... Sorry, I'm so tired today. It's been a long night of parenting. Help. So thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Brittany Bobitney, Cami, Chris, Christine and Bean, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emperor's New Blues, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric, JC Murphy, Jack, Jesse, Jill, John E., Julie D., Kelly No K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W., Caitlin M., Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lex, Lemon Jelly, Max B., Mixer Boneless, Night Owl Reader, Alice, Rachel C., Rain, Reese, SJ, Samar, Scarlet, Shadow Auntie, Hi Peggy, Shiny, SMK, Steph B., 2 Orbit, Chai Guy, and the Salem T. Lynn. Thank you all so much for being here and being a friend. I super appreciate you. And last but not least, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, and those are, my favorite flavor is Rachel. I can't with y'all. Oh my god. My favorite flavor is Rachel, Alicia H, Amanda, Andy, Angelica, Angry Otter, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ashley H, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck L, Blake, Lemon Pants, Blythe, Bookish Bats, Bookish Brainrot, Bree, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Clementine, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Danielle M, Darren, Deborah B, Diet Goth, Dorian, Ebby, Ember, Emerald Dodge, Emily A, Emily L, Emma, Aaron, Ezra Moon, Fiona M, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, Haley G, Ilianaka, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, JT, Jelly, Jen Michelle, Genderqueer, Jenny G, Jessa Sue, Jillian, Jojo Bookish, Jess Pugsley, Kai, Kat, Catherine, Katie, Kayala, Kendra, Kiara, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura G, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Luciri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, MV Marlowe, Madison, Man Eating Plant, nice, Marcella, Marquita, Melara, Mentally Unwell, same, MK Books, Molly, James, Nat, Natalie M, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Penny Chilling, Fox Club, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca, Rivy D, Rosie, Rowan, Secoria, Sadie, Sayer Riley, Samantha M, Samantha O, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sheen Onion, Sean, T Delegati, Tay, Talia, Three Old Dogs, Tiana, Tina, Toast, Trashcan Teddy, Ty, Akure Phenix, Wiki Cherry, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being here and being a friend.